Good morning, number 3. I hope all of you are sufficiently awake with all the good mornings that have come your way. Very warm welcome to the very distinguished panel, very experienced people. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we will try and explore different aspects of coaching. So actually when this title was sent to me, Your Coach, Your Lighthouse, part of me said, are we being a little too presumptuous as coaches? Are we? And then I kind of looked at the concept of a lighthouse, and I think, I don't know how many of us are actually lighthouses or not, but most certainly there's a lot to learn from the lighthouse. The first thing that came to mind is the lighthouse is always silent, it doesn't talk, and listening is one of the key factors which goes into coaching. It's always there, stability. Stationary, it doesn't jump into the water every time. You got to find your way to the lighthouse. Lighthouse doesn't come to you. Also, very interesting, if the lighthouse knows when to switch off. During the day, it just switches off the light and kind of just blends into the background. And of course, it's there in the rocky areas where you really need it and you are there. It's also always there, built by the art. Whenever a person needs, the lighthouse is there. So I think it's a very apt title. It's a very useful title, and there's a lot of learning that we can take from the lighthouse qualities. We have a total of 45 minutes, and we have 4 people here and 1 person through, like that. Okay. We're used to the one which is a little more. I'll try and hold it a little like that. So 45 minutes. I will first request each of the panelists to speak on certain areas that are of interest to them and of interest to this audience for about 5 minutes. And then the rest of the time we will have a Q&A and a discussion. So what we can do is that on my left are 2 people who have undergone coaching. On my right are 2 people, well, one of them has undergone coaching, I don't know what you said, but they are also people who use coaches in their work. And Arvind is in between, he's also had a coach. So what we will do is we will start with the coachees first. So Meena, first you.
Sure.
Why don't you just tell us what you have gained from your coaching experience?
How do I put this on first? Is it on? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, hi. Good morning. I'm so excited to be here. So for me, to start, I'd have to sort of go backwards before I met my coach. So I had never been in a position of wanting when it comes to socially knowing who I am, the persona that the world deals with on a social basis. But from within, I never knew that where I was supposed to go professionally. I always knew that I was so-and-so's daughter, or so-and-so's mother, or so-and-so's friend. But I didn't know aspects of myself that I could own to say that I can make money off of. With my background in psychology, I always sought out help whenever I felt the need. So whether it was going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a healer, I always sought out help whenever I needed it. But I did not, despite all of this, despite the fact that I'm a complete junkie for help, I never knew that there's something known as a life coach that exists out there. So I had a very sort of serendipitous episode that happened, and I stumbled upon my life coach. And when my journey began with my life coach, from get-go, it was, some people go shopping for interactions like this. For me, it just kind of was a perfect fit. And from the first time that I met him, there was no feeling of the mercenary aspect. You always feel that, when you get into an engagement like this, there's going to be a feeling of, being timed. Oh my God, there's a timer on. And shit, what if 1 minute gets up and I don't get my money's worth? So the first meeting I had with my life coach, it went on for, I would say, I think 3 or maybe even 4 hours, which was bloody ridiculous. I was like, oh my God. And it was like epiphany after epiphany. And I have to say that each time I had a session, I never walked away without an epiphany. which is fabulous. I mean, that doesn't even, I mean, it doesn't happen. I've been for therapy sessions and I'd walk away feeling, you know, kind of wanting. But with my life coach, each time I went, and I have to share this episode, that once I went, and there's something bothering me, you know, in my personal life, you know, in a relationship with somebody. And I didn't know, I maybe didn't want to deal with it head on. And I kept talking, and I kept talking. And an hour and a half, maybe 2 went by. And I was reading about the bush, bullshitting, you know. And I was like, shit, damn it, I have not gotten my money's worth this time, and this is the first time. And I was really pissed. And suddenly, I was like, okay, time is up maybe. And he tells the girl at the coffee shop, 1 more cappuccino? And he asks me, ek aur cappuccino piyegi? So I said, yeah. And he leans in and he asks me, he said, Hun das, tu ki gal karan aai si? Which for you means that, tell me, why did you really come here today? And I said, holy shit, he's on to me. And from there, I realized that he's amazing, because there's nothing, and he kind of connected so deeply with me that there was no charade left. So I would say, for me, the most important thing with a coach would be, I wish I had a script, I should have made some points, but yeah, so I would say, somebody who guides you, somebody who gently molds you, and at the cost of being a little dramatic, is your guru in some sense, because it's a really deep connection. It's a really, really, really deep connection. So that has been my experience with being coached. And I have to look at my phone for a second, because I did make one point that I feel I am missing. Yeah, I think the most important thing for me was, I didn't know what I could own. I didn't know what I could own. So to say that, what do I stand for? So for me to very gingerly put pen to paper and to say, you know, I stand for self-respect, honor, dignity, and self-love. And very hesitantly put it down and hide it in my cupboard and look at it, and every day stand a little taller when I look at it and be like, okay, this is who I am, damn it, and own it. And then to say that, you know what, I love writing, very gingerly, I've written since the age of 7. And then to say, I love networking, it comes naturally to me. And then to say, you know what, I write and I'm a network. And then damn it, I can make money off it. And then suddenly a job manifests itself just with those 2 qualities. So yes, it's been a wonderful journey. And yeah, that's it for now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the sharing, for the open sharing. I think we all appreciate that. So with that, we go on to our next panelist for today, Rakhi. You are from the non-profit sector. What has your experience been? And is it any different? This was, of course, about life coaching. So would you like to share about, I don't know what kind of coaching you have been through, so just go ahead and share whatever comes to mind. If possible, something about the non-profit sector.
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
as you mentioned, non-profit, working with non-profit gives you a lot of ego. That's very honest, because we feel every day that we change lives. Like when she was mentioning 500% growth, I was thinking that is like 25,000 people in 5 years when we talk about the transplants. And when you get this ego in yourself, you realize that you are doing the best of what you have. So at some point of time, you don't even look at your potential, that what actually you are worth it of, and you in your own work, you are basking in that shadow, and they say, okay, I'm very happy with what I'm doing. And that's exactly what happened with me 8 years back. At the age of 28, I was heading an organization in Rajasthan, doing this life changes, daughter of very, very happy parents and mother of 2 daughters actually, with very happy family. And I said, yeah, that's what I always wanted in my life. And then I met my life coach. And then he said, are you really want this? Is that your actual potential? And that was the time when I started questioning myself. That is that what I really wanted? And what I am today. I am heading All India Ophthalmic Society as right now for the academic and training program. And what I am today, I owe it to my coach. So all those conversations, and we always used to have conversations in the car because I was always busy. So I used to have those travel conversations, and I don't meet him very often because he's in US. but we still have those Skype conversations, and when I feel very low, I tell him, I need that car conversation with you, because I'm not able to decide what to do. But that's for me. But what with the ICF, my stint was because of my team members. And these young people, like I said, at the age of 28, I was full of ego that I'm changing life. I work for eye donation, and I used to work with a team of 21 young eye donation counselors, more from the age of 19 years to 25, 26 years. And they were making this change in the life of different people every day, going to hospitals, talking to the families, once their death has happened, and counseling them for the eye donation. And suddenly I realized after 2 or 3 years of working with these people that they're not coming to me for any promotion. They're not talking to me about extra responsibilities because they were very satisfied with their job. And that's the time I connected with ICF, and I said, I don't know why these young people are so lifeless. They are happy, satisfied, but they don't have any aspirations in their life. And at the time, ICF gave me 10 coaches for 10 different people. And that was a life-changing experience for me as a manager. These 10 people right now are leading different teams in India, leading different programs in India. One of them who was about to leave the job because she gave birth to a child, and she said, I can't work now, is working with the Delhi government hospital as an AIDS counselor. She got a government job. And these people are just flying high. Some of them have applied for the position of managers, which I never thought of. And Uttara, I remember those conversations with Uttara when I used to say, Uttara, they don't know how to speak in English. So if आप इनसे हिंदी में बात कर पाएं तो they'll be very, very comfortable. And these people enrolled for the computer classes, they enrolled for the English classes. And when I meet these people now, they are like changed personalities. And to be very honest, it doesn't work at all. Like out of 10, maybe it doesn't work for 4 people. But even if it worked for 60% of them, that's a big, big achievement. So that's what I will say to ICF coaches, that when you work for non-profits, sorry, I may overshoot the time, but when you work for non-profit, people are not looking for a job change most of the time. They are not looking for a tough competitions like corporates, and they are very satisfied. At that time, you need to be very conscious about the conversations which you have them, because you have to tell them about their own potential which they are not even aware of. So, empathetic, learning about the cause which they are working for, passionate, and I'll say more approachable to them. So that's what we look for with ICF when they say we want to do the pro bono counseling for the non-profits. So, and thanks JP, and thanks to all the ICF coaches. You have really changed lives of people who have never even heard of coaching earlier. So thanks.
Thank you so much. That was a little overwhelming for me. First of all, your great work, the vision that you have, and the fact that you are open enough to take up new ideas, wonderful. And of course, if ICF has contributed to 10 people who are working in the non-profit sector, the number of people they can impact going forward. I think a wonderful experience. So we have had 2 great experiences, both pertaining, well, one completely live, one a little live, and a little corporate. So let's move over to Mr. Arvind Mehrotra, who has sent us. So actually, before he left, I had just given him 3 questions. So he recorded this, I think, somewhere in New York. Let me just, I hope he has answered these questions, or he probably recorded it early in the morning, so you may have gone a bit off tangent. I basically asked him, just share with us, why did you go in for coaching? What are the benefits that you got? And is there any message that you have for coaches around us? And he's purely from the corporate sector. So we have 3 short videos. We will just kind of play them in succession, about 8-9 minutes, and then we'll come back to the 2 of you. Q1 first.
Yes.
Let me take this opportunity to congratulate the International Coaching Federation Delhi chapter I planned to be there in person, but due to business exigency, I could not be there. My apologies. So what I thought instead was that I still wanted to share my experience, and unfortunately I will not be able to learn because I'm not present physically. So I'm taping this from the hotel in New York and sharing this conversation with you all. I hope you will get the insights that I went through, and it would possibly add to the enrichment of the conference. So I met with Shyam over a telephonic call, and one of the questions that he had asked me is, why did I go for executive coaching? And the reasons are a few. And one of the primary reasons was that the last formal training that I went to was at the Michigan Ross Business School, which was way back in 2004. And 10 years had passed till 2014, where no formal education, formal inputs were received. And I was seeking some inputs to develop, to continue to develop my leadership, management, and personality. The second was that I was leading a business for 10 years in a region. And as it happens, we all develop a certain set of style because we work with the same set of customers, familiarity with the region and the marketplace. And I felt that I required to make some changes, but I was not sure where to begin and how to begin. And lastly, I was stepping up into a new role, to handle a global general role. This required I had to work with a new set of leaders, new markets, new customers. And on top of that, I had to deal with multiple stakeholders because this agenda was on the board's focus area. So I sought from the organization an executive coach who could act and prepare me, who could act as a coach and not act as a supervisor or a manager, and help me to develop as a leader and continue to help me in my progression in my next phase.
Yeah, go ahead. I think that was fairly clear. Why did I go in for coaching? I think this time we can move on.
Lastly, I thought it would be a good idea to share with you what I could share with the coaches present.
Sorry, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, I think that was Q3.
Yes.
Two was a little long, so we trimmed it.
Areas of focus was on two counts. As I said, the whole area of impacting organization. And over a period of time, I felt that I was spending too much time in execution because that role demanded. And the new role, as it turned out, I had to be more focused on strategy rather than execution. So the whole time management became an area which I never felt was something that I was not good at. But time management and time allocation to the right set of activities became important. So I was only spending about 20 to 30% time on strategy, which had to dramatically shift to 50% on strategy. The second area was impacting my personality. Again, one of the big questions in front of me was that I had developed a culture of stepping in to deal with crisis and being very operationally hands-on. And what emerged was that I had to develop a new framework of step in, step out to encourage my next level to work more independently. And my inability to be present 24/7 on the operational field, which meant that I had to change my style. So these were the two areas that he focused on, and I was pleasantly surprised that the end of 6 months, when we sat down with my supervisors, my chairman, managing director, and my CEO, it was encouraging to see that they had felt the change, and that I had developed some frameworks which I was sharing on an ongoing basis with my coach, and who then shared with my leadership team. And I was then asked to continue doing this change journey on myself. And I think every year I do reflect now, because I had the benefit of a coach behind me to keep reviewing myself on 3 areas: impacting organization, impacting personality, and impacting image.
It's great if the boss can see the change in you. What more do you want? So there's, I think, one more. We will run through this and then come back. So just put on question 3 please.
Question 3 as well?
Yep.
Yes.
Number 3.
Lastly, I thought it would be a good idea to share with you what I could share with the coaches present here, and what I think through the sessions that I've gone through, and subsequently many sessions that I've got conducted for my team and interacting with the coaches, what I think the coaches should do in their coaching sessions with these individuals, and how they can enable these individuals to continuously improve. One area I do see that coaches tend to do is, when they're very close to the organization or a set of leaders in that organization, they start developing opinions on the mentee that they are supposed to mentor. This comes in the way of their ability to impact and influence the change that they would like to see in the mentee. And I've often seen that the opinions that get created on both sides leads to a failed coaching experience. The second area that I often notice is that successful coaches are those coaches who are not stepping into an operational situation, not giving the solution, and lastly, are not very familiar with the industry. Familiarity with the industry often leads to creating a situation where we start sharing opinions and views on where the industry is heading, which could then in some way impact how the leader is viewing the marketplace or his or her business. So I encourage the coaches to have the patience to step away from being in a position to be judgmental, and finally create a framework for the mentee, which is he or she, so that they can continuously improve, because it is in your hands that you not only impact one life, but through that one person impact many lives. All the very best.
We will thank Arvind again on your behalf. I've already sent him a thank you email. And I think good tips for us to try and follow from somebody who has been on both sides, has been coached as well as hires coaches for his teams, etc. I think one of the things that he said right at the beginning was kind of just struck me, that, he said something to the effect that I had not gone for a training again after 2004, and how little do we invest in ourselves, and I mean coaches also. Actually, the ICF structure supports coaches in terms of having to go in for continuous learning, etc. But many a time when we speak to clients, it's about, okay, 12 hours over 6 months, can you somehow reduce it to 6? Or if X amount of money is too much, I think we are probably more willing to spend on our kids' admission, not education, into KG, than we are willing to spend as adults on our on reinventing ourselves once in 10 years. And in a world like today, I think if we don't reinvent, we will talk about it, of course, reinvention, but reinvention does need some time and money. And many of the people that I coach, I talk to them and say, yeah, okay, you're going to spend 12 hours with me over 6 months. I think you spend more time combing your hair or deciding what to eat, not eating, just deciding what to eat or which restaurant you're going to go to. But I think some kind of misplaced priorities have come up, and I think we as coaches have to try and see if we can help them. But moving on to the right-hand side, the people, she's been coached also, and she also hires coaches for things. So why don't you share your thoughts with us? And let's hear some stuff about what coaches don't do.
Sure. So let me maybe share two aspects. Like Shyam was saying, I've had the benefit of having different kind of coaching interventions through the phase of my career. Right from the time when I was a young analyst and joined the organization to last year when I actually worked with a coach in a more structured fashion. I have to say that for me that journey has been not of any specific moment of epiphany, but it's been a continuous journey of reflection and maybe a 2-step forward and a 1-step backward kind of a journey. The most important aspect of what I found helpful working with a coach to think through a set of issues or think through a set of agenda is perhaps just find that neutral space to reflect. For me, all the battle is within, and that awareness and that space for reflection with someone who's listening is perhaps 80-90% of the value that I found. I can't remember any specific instance when it's been just that moment of epiphany that Nina was talking about. For me, it's been a continuous journey, and every year I gain something from it. And that 1 or 2 things that I gain are for me very valuable each year as I continue to work on my own journey. I think the other aspect which perhaps I can bring to this discussion is what I essentially do with my client organizations is to help them define their business agenda, where they want to go in terms of strategic initiatives and so on. But the more important part of the realization over the last many years is that the organization can't move forward until the individuals move forward. Basically, the performance of an organization is nothing but the sum total of a set of behaviors of the leader. So to take a specific instance, over the last 2 years I've been working with this family-owned organization where there are at least 3 sets of generations involved. So there is the elder generation, there are 3 brothers who pretty much started the organization, have brought it to a certain point. Now they have their next generation which is coming in. The next generation itself is in a very different set of age bands. There's a set of people who are more in the late 30s, there's a younger lot, 20s who's coming in, and so on. And as we were working with them over a set of business initiatives, very early on what we started talking to them about is unless they also have a shared aspiration and can figure out their roles, their individual roles within this business, and also that clarity is clear to the individual business leaders of how they should work with their bosses, this generation, they were not going to make much progress. So we help. I guess our role was more to just help them have this awareness between the 3 brothers on how they could both have a shared aspiration but also make it clear to their leaders and their business heads what it was, but also bring the younger generation in, because for the next 10 or 20 years they were not going to be around, but the younger generation was going to be. So what they've now done is they're working with a coach. The 3 elder brothers are working with a coach. Their sons are also coming into that process. The whole idea is for them again to have an open space to discuss. You can imagine in a family there's a lot of things that come in, a lot of biases, a lot of which come in the way of the business performance. And I think increasingly for us, each of the assignment is so much about changing behavior as about defining the business initiatives, and that's where I think coaching has become an inherent part of what used to be traditional business consulting and traditional advice on strategic initiatives. Because until individuals move forward, the organization also can't move forward. So maybe I'm happy to share some more aspects of that, but that's a lot of what I've been working on as well over the last few years. In terms of Shyam, the specific question that you asked on what coaches can do more, maybe that I can share from my personal experience more so than the organizations I work with. For me, the most important part is just to be a neutral listener, and as much as coaches can be that's what I find is the most important. As Arvind was sharing as well, for me there is no space for opinions in coaching, right? It's just a space. All the coaching is inside, actually, literally. There's very few of us can be coaxed into doing anything. We will do stuff only when it sits within, and we start with an awareness, and something in our own mind gets to a particular insight. So for me, very little opinion or coaxing works. The whole process is internal, and therefore the space of coaching is all about listening, creating that space for reflection, creating the forced space for reflection. So to that extent, some amount of discipline and regularity in that process helps, but really not much more for me that I find helpful. The second part of listening sometimes, and I've worked with different coaches, some of them have worked better, some of them have worked less well for my own personal context, is, and I don't really know the terms, so I don't really know the difference between life coaching and business coaching and executive coaching and so on. But yeah, so pardon me if I don't know the exact definitional differences, but the coach being able to understand the business context in which I operate is helpful. If they come from too narrow a space of, then sometimes just the listening itself becomes more narrow. So being aware of the business context just creates a better space for that listening. This is probably the 2 points I would like to share.
Thank you so much. Valuable insights. One that it's not about learning all the time, but even if you get one idea out of any self-development activity, that's good enough. You don't need, every morning you don't need a fresh insight. I would be dead if I was trying to get a new insight every morning and trying to then implement that. And of course, the understanding of the business context in which we operate as coaches. Thank you very much. I hope you people are noting down some questions. We probably will have a little bit of time for that. So please jot them down. I'm not allowing any time in between because we had a lot of people and a lot of great thoughts to get from them. At the end, we will have some time. Louder? Oh, time. Yeah. Yes. Got 2 stopwatches, one here, one right there. I think we should be doing okay, maybe a couple of minutes here there. So when I was about 30 years younger, I was working as what is now called CIO. I was an EDP manager in an organization. And that was a time that we didn't have any coaches as such, not even, maybe some mentors, but definitely not coaches. The word did not exist. So I used to crib about certain, computers were not accepted at that time. I used to generate tons of reports and give them out, and after that, they used to be disposed of by the people to the department. And actually, a couple of times, last month's reports I discovered at the pawn shop next to the factory that I was working in. So I got very annoyed at this thing, and I went and complained to my boss, and I did all kinds of things. So he said, yes, I understand, you have to be able to sell computerization, and that would be sounding alien to people today. But at that point of time, you had to first sell computerization internally in the organization. So I complained, and he said, okay, I'll get you promoted to the next level. And once you are promoted, then every month the council of the organization would meet, and you should be able to get your ideas across there. So I got promoted, and I went to those meetings for 6 months or something, and nothing changed. It used to remain the same, so I went and cribbed again. She said, listen, I've got you the promotion, now what more do you want? And at that point of time, if coaches existed, I would probably have said I need a coach. Unfortunately, there were no coaches, so in a huff I left the organization. I said, they don't understand anything. And I moved on to something else, of course, which was completely different. So I thought I'll just add that bit about the lack of coaches. So you sir also probably started your career at a time when there was no such thing as coaches. So do you see any use in all this business that we talk about these days? Have you seen any change, or you feel that this is all stuff that can be just forgotten about?
No, frankly, to be honest with you, I think everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs everybody. And if you have to attain your potential, if you have to be self-aware, if you have to really get to where you want to get to in life, as well as in your career, I think in today's day and age, it is an imperative to have a coach stroke mentor. So yes, the need is very much there. And believe me, the need will only increase, because with all that is happening in the world and the environment, I think coaches will become more and more relevant. So you cannot really move to where you want without one. So I think there's a huge market, there's a huge need. Yes, there is a lack of, I think, information and knowledge and insight. But in my sort of career of 23 years, I'm meeting scores of candidates as well as working with scores of organizations. I mean, one thing that I consistently make is that you need one. The issue is, how do you find a great one? And how do you find that one that is suited for you? So finding a coach is also like a marriage. Somebody who's compatible, somebody who understands your DNA, somebody who's able to get you to articulate what you may be having in your head somewhere, which may be in a confused state. And you may not have that adequate clarity about it. So is the coach able to draw that out from you, which may be somewhere in your subconscious, and make you articulate that clearly, is one of the things that a coach, I think, must do. Because if you have clarity, then obviously half the battle is won. So they will always. Now, regarding your question, what really happened before, and yes, I think in that, at least in India,